So let's have a look at our first question this evening. And let's just first run through where we come from, what we've done. We did the distance formula over here. And then we did the midpoint as well, calculating the midpoint. Then we did lots on gradients the other day. And, oh, sorry, this is what we're going to do. No, this is what we're doing. Oh, for a minute, I thought I skipped a lesson. Oh, panic, but it's okay. I did not skip a lesson. Okay, so tonight we're going to do this, where we're going to start doing questions the way they are asked in the test. Okay, so we kind of spent some time developing the individual concepts of distance and midpoint, gradients, etc. So tonight we are going to just look at more sort of integrated questions. That's more like testy stuff. Okay, right. So let's have a look here at what I've got cooked up for us here this evening. We are given the below rhombus, F-I-N-E, or fine. Q is the point where the diagonals intersect. Determine the coordinates of F. It reminds me of that meme where it says, like, maths is like, how many watermelons do you have if you have so many bananas and stuff? So it's like Q is the point where the diagonals intersect. We need the coordinates of F. Okay. If anyone has any ideas, I did post some hints here because maybe that's going to help. A rhombus has these properties. All sides are equal. Opposite angles are equal. Both pairs of opposite sides are parallel, and the diagonals bisect each other at 90 degrees. So maybe that's going to be useful for you to solve this problem. In fact, it will be. That's why I kind of placed it there, so to give you a bit of a start on the problem. But if you have any ideas, how should we do this? Put your hand up. Maybe you want to unmute and tell us. I'll give you a few seconds to think. So Q is the point where the diagonals intersect. And we need the coordinates of F. Yes, Oriconisa. What do you think?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Let me give it a try. What I was thinking is that we can find, by using EI, we can find the midpoint of Q. And when we get the midpoint of Q, we can use it to find the coordinates of F. Since we have two known variables, we can use it and create an equation and find the coordinates of F.
Wonderful. Okay. Right. So, Yenzi, what do you want to add? Yenzi, did you change your mind? Okay, right, everyone. Off we go. We're going to start by finding the coordinates of Q. Why are we finding the coordinates of Q? Because it is said Q is the point where the diagonals intersect. And if you look at the properties of a rhombus, the diagonals bisect each other at 90 degrees. Okay, so that means Q is a midpoint. And for this, you need to know your properties of your quadrilaterals quite well. But if you don't know them yet because you haven't done them in school yet, that's fine. That's why I put the properties up for you. Okay, so Q is a midpoint. Let's all do that now. Let's find the midpoint Q. Isa's got an answer yet. Anyone else? Post it in the chat. Remember that thing about participation? There's about 50 of us. So I want to see 50 answers in the chat. Even if your answer's there already, just post it. No problem, Buchle. Let's get the coordinates of Q, everyone. Pop it in the chat when you've got it. Enzi says it's 2 and 1. A few people are saying it's 2 and 1. Come, let's get more answers going. Just remember that we separate our coordinates with a semicolon like that. Sinako. Okay, this is a warm-up question, so I want everyone to post. Let's see. Okay, so to get that midpoint, we're going to add the x coordinates. So that's 3 plus 1, the x coordinates at E and I. It must be the holiday. We are doing the midpoint. So we go 3 plus 1 divided by 2. And then 4 plus or minus 2, which is minus 2 divided by 2. So then Q is going to be 3 plus 1 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. And 4 minus 2 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. Okay, good stuff. Tiamo, I hope that helps. That has sparked some thoughts over there, and that the blank has gone. Oh, shame. It's okay. You're just finding the midpoint. It's just the midpoint. Okay. So now that we have that midpoint, 2 and 1, let's now, this was Tuesday's lesson, right? Tuesday's lesson was finding missing coordinates if given the midpoint. So now we can go on and find F. So let's see who can remember, who understood from Tuesday. We have the midpoint, we just calculated it, 2 and 1. And we have N, 8 and minus 1. So now we need F. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that. Don't put answers in the chat yet. I'll call for answers when we're ready. This one's yours, Tiamu. No stress. We've got till 1817 to find the coordinates of F, now that we have the coordinates of Q. Right, pop your answer in the chat if you have the coordinates of F. Remember, Q is the midpoint between F and N. So be careful when you calculate. Pop your answers in the chat, guys. Q is the midpoint. F is unknown, but we do have N. So if we put them into order, it basically looks like this. X and Y. In the middle, we've got Q, 2 and 1. Oh, what is going on, grade 10s, with your brains? Have you got zombie brain? And then N is 8 and minus 1. Where are the answers, guys? Are we stuck? Okay, Buchley says I must explain. Okay, guys, we did this on Tuesday, but you must have just slept since then or something, that you've been on holiday and now you've forgotten all of this. Okay, so we know that Q is the midpoint. This is the middle. So we need to find the coordinates of F. So that means X, this one, plus this one, plus 8, divided by 2 gives me this one, 2. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you understand where I got that from. Put a thumbs up in the chat if you understand what I just did. Q is the midpoint. We have an X, an unknown X, plus another coordinate, which is 8. If we divide it by 2, we must get the midpoint X coordinates. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to solve for X by making an equation. I hope grade 10s remember how to do that. First, we multiply by 2, so that gives me 4, and then X is minus 4. Okay, so X is minus 4. Now you can do the Y coordinate. I've done the X's now. You can do the Y coordinate. Same principle, same thinking. The Y coordinate at F plus the Y coordinate at N divided by 2 is going to give me the Y coordinate at Q at the midpoint. Thanks, Monete. I'm going to do the answer in a bit. I want everyone to now try this. Find the Y coordinate on your own. And then grade 10s, I suggest you go back and re-watch Tuesday's lesson. Because on Tuesday, you were all on board with this type of problem. Now it's just asked in a different way, but we're still doing the same thing. So we're going to do Y plus a minus 1, which is minus 1, divided by 2 is equal to 1. Then we times by 2, and then we add a 1. So the coordinates, finally, of F is minus 4 and 3. Okay, some of you got it right from the start. That's great. Excellent. Okay, I hope we are awake now. Let's go on to the next question. Okay, so we have rhombus ABCD is drawn, and we have the coordinates of A and the coordinates of C. Determine the gradient of BD. Okay, let's just go fetch our properties, because we're going to need those properties to solve for this. Okay, so what do we know about the diagonals of a rhombus? Pop it in the chat. What do we know about the diagonals of a rhombus? Guys, this is not something you have to think about a lot. It is in the green bubble. They're bisected 90 degrees. There we go. So 90 degrees. What do you know about lines that meet at 90 degrees? What did we learn about the gradients of lines that meet at 90 degrees? Pop it in the chat. No, they're not equal. Parallel lines are equal. Gradients that are equal. What about perpendicular? Listen carefully to the question. My question was, what do we know about the gradients of lines that are perpendicular? They don't have a gradient of -1. What must we do with the gradient? Here in this big red bubble, it shows
Oh my
when
God.
you multiply the gradients are not equal. Write this down somewhere, grade 10s, because I think you all have forgotten this. My question was about the gradients of lines that are perpendicular. What do we know about them? This is what we should know. We should know that the product of their gradients equal -1. That's it, Simamkele. When you multiply them, they must be equal to -1, not 1. Okay. Right. Write that down if you forgot that already. It is really important. It is not something that you should forget ever again. So the gradient of the two lines, if they are perpendicular, are equal to -1. Okay, calculate the gradient of CA now. We are back to our question. This is important. To solve our question, what is the gradient of AC? Do that now. Pop it in the chat when you have it. Okay, so it seems that people think it is 3/2. Let's work it out. We go 4 minus -2 over 3 minus -1. So that gives me 6 over 4, and that is 3/2. Okay, so if the gradient of AC is 3/2, what is the gradient of BD going to be? Remember that we said the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. So if the gradient of AC, which is the one diagonal, is 3/2, what is the gradient of BD? No, it's not 3/2. It's not 3/2 because they are not parallel. They are perpendicular. What did we say here? The gradients multiplied together, if you have perpendicular lines, must equal -1. So what must I multiply by to get -1? That's it. -2/3. That's right, guys. It's not the inverse, it's the reciprocal, the negative reciprocal. Yeah, -2/3. Okay, I want everyone to be very clear. The gradients of perpendicular lines are not equal, and they are not -1. They multiply to give you -1. Okay, so if the one gradient is 3/2, the other one must be -2/3. The negative reciprocal. That's how you work it out. Okay, right. Let's see. What else? What's the time? Okay, now we've got plenty of time still. Let's carry on. Right. Have a look at this question. And when you are done reading the question, just post your reading face in the chat. Okay, remember tonight we are doing questions that are a lot like test type questions. Okay, so, and we're going to do it for the next 3 lessons. So this is how it is normally asked in tests and things. So you have to get used to this. And you got to know your stuff. Okay, so as we go through the lesson and there's something that you're confused about, make a note, write it down, make big bubbles for yourself so that you don't forget it again. Like how to calculate the midpoint, how to calculate the coordinate if the midpoint is given. Those things guarantee will come up in tests. So if we want to get 70, 80, 60%, you've got to know how to do those. Okay, where are the rest of my faces? Come everybody, participation. There's like 5 faces in the chat. Read the question and then post your reading emoji in the chat. Shiraz is just posting face. Where's your emojis? Shiraz, have you still not found your emojis? Okay, right, let's start going through the questions. Okay, so we have here a circle. Not good with computers, okay. We have a circle with center, that's P, and then A, B, and C are points on the circle, with AC being the diameter. Okay, so if you remember your circle terms, the diameter goes right through from one end to the other, and it goes right through the center of the circle. The radius is half the diameter. And what else? The circumference, we're not going to need the circumference right now, but the circumference, that's basically the outline of the circle. Okay, so how are we going to determine the radius of the circle? Pop it in the chat if you know. Just tell me how. You don't have to tell me what the answer is. Just tell me how you will do it. Okay, good. Oracle Nisa says distance formula. Any other suggestions? Okay, right. I'm gonna. Yes, Latita's got a different suggestion to first find the midpoint and then the distance. Yeah, okay, nice. So there are basically two ways that we can do it. We can do the distance of AC and then divide it by 2 to get the radius, because AC is the diameter. All distance formula. Alternatively, we can find the midpoint. We can find what AB is, and then use the distance formula to calculate PA or PC. All right, you choose which way you want to do it. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I'll call for answers when the time is up. Okay, so at 18:34, have your answer ready for the radius. You can choose which way you want to do it. If you need the distance formula, if you've forgotten the distance formula, I'll help you out. But remember, in grade 10, you don't get a formula sheet. You must know your formulas. So you might as well start learning this and try and not look on the board or anything. Just start memorizing your distance formula and your midpoint formula. No problem, Clo. You can catch up on the recording, but we just basically did 2 questions, and now we are busy with this one. And we've just started it, so. Okay, pop your answer in the chat if you have it. What is the length of the radius? Let's get answers going, everyone. What is the length of the radius for this first question? If you're getting a syntax error, you probably need to check that you put the coordinates in correctly. Let's get some more answers, everyone. Keep putting your answers in the chat. Okay, I think a few of you need to really check what you are doing on your calculator. Okay, so step 1, we're going to substitute in. So check that your substitution is right and that you put it into your calculator correctly. -2 minus 4 squared. 7 minus 3 squared. So that's what you should get on your calculator, what you should put into your calculator. If you're getting all these funny answers, you're definitely doing something wrong with your calculator, and you are putting it or putting the coordinates in the wrong order. Remember the coordinates. So I said this is x2 and this is x1. And I said this is y2 and this is y1. Okay, so you can't now make this y2 and that y1. It has to follow the same order. So it's -2 minus 4 squared plus 7 minus 3 squared. I get on my calculator when I work that out, that's for AC, 2 root 13. But I don't want AC. I need the radian. So PA is half of that, which is root 13, which some of you have, have rounded off to say, sorry, root 13 is 3,61. Okay, so 7.2, all the other answers, guys, those are not correct. You need to check that you are doing it correct on your calculator. 7.2 is also not correct, and 5.1 is not correct. So put it into your calculator using the correct coordinates. It can't be -10, Shiraz, because it's a distance. A distance must be positive. Okay, right. Now let's do the coordinates of P. That is the next question. The coordinates of P. So the coordinates of P, yeah, Zoom, this person Zoom user, it's not root 52. Again, look at what I did, put it into your calculator, check that you're doing it correctly. Yeah, and check that you are using the formula correctly. So you can leave it in insert form, or you can, if the question says leave insert form, then you leave it in insert form. Otherwise, you can write it as a decimal. If it doesn't specify, both are correct. Okay, right, let's go on to the next question, the midpoint of P. Some of you might have worked this out already. So for P, we are going to do -2 plus 4 divided by 2, 7 plus 3 divided by 2. That's just the midpoint. So -2 plus 4 is 2, divided by 2 is 1, and then 7 plus 3 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. Yes, that's right, Letita. Good stuff for Misa. Yeah, it must be 1 and 5. So check your calculations. Check your calculations. Okay. Now, show that AB is perpendicular to BC. How will we show that two lines are perpendicular? This you did in the gradients lesson, so you should know. How can we show that AB is perpendicular to BC? And it's very similar to the question we just did with the rhombus as well. Hi, Monica. Tell me, how are we going to show that these lines are perpendicular? You can unmute, Monica. Yeah.
Then, when you multiply the gradients, they must equal to -1.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so everyone, I want you to now work out what is the gradient of AB, what is the gradient of BC, and see if you can show that the two lines are perpendicular. We've got 2 minutes till 18:43 to do this. Gradient of AB, gradient of BC, and then we need to show. Kaklejo, that's wrong. 5 and 1. It's the wrong way around. It must be 1 and 5. X coordinates go first, then Y coordinates. Oh, sorry. There you go. Okay, guys, pop your answers in the chat, your gradient for AB and your gradient for BC, and if they are perpendicular. Nyasha says AB is 1 over 5. Let's get some more answers, everyone. Like I said. Okay. Good. So AB, we are going to do 2 minus 3 over minus 1 minus 4 minus 1 over minus 5 simplifies to 1 over 5. Who said this? Shiraz, you want to do calculus in grade 10 already? Wow. You'd rather do calculus in grade 10 than Euclidean geometry in grade 10, if I understand you correctly. I think you must be careful what you wish for. Okay, and then BC is 7 minus 2 and minus 2 minus 1. So that's 5 over minus 1, and that gives me minus 5. Okay, so then at the end you write, so if you've got those two answers, we can see 1 over 5 times the minus 5 gives me minus 1. So then at the end you write the gradient of AB times the gradient of BC. You write a nice little story here at the end to finish off. It's equal to minus 1. Therefore, AB perpendicular to BC. Okay, so end it off nicely by saying that the gradients multiplied together gives you minus 1.